All right, let's dive right in. We're about to look at the history of the internet, but probably not in a way you've seen before. We're going to use the lens of neuroscience to map the web's evolution, as if it were a giant, external part of the human brain itself. So let's start with this one big question that's going to frame everything we talk about today. What if the internet isn't just a passive tool we use? What if it's an active mirror? One that's constantly reflecting our own neural patterns back at us, and in that process actually changing the way our brains are wired.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical game. The source material for this explainer makes a pretty bold claim. This is a real, observable thing they call mirror ecology.
So what is mirror ecology? Well, think of it like this. We are stuck in this constant feedback loop with the web. It's like an external nervous system that we're literally co-evolving with. Every click, every scroll, every post, it doesn't just vanish. It actively teaches the algorithms, which then turn around and teach our brains. It's this wild, real-time dance where we're shaping it and it's shaping us. Okay, so to really get how we ended up here, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to the web's infancy. Let's talk about Web 1.0, which you can think of as the web's simple, almost primitive, hyperlinked brainstem. Now, what's really interesting here is how this whole thing is framed not just in tech terms, but like the stages of a human life. We start with the infancy of Web 1.0. Then we dive into the chaotic adolescence of Web 2.0, this kind of fragmented early adulthood with Web 3.0. And then we look forward to what a mature version could look like. You know, the early web was just simple. It was decentralized. It was all about connection. Think about hyperlinks as the web's first sensory nerves. You'd click, you'd get a direct response, a simple reflex arc. And here's the crucial part. There was no social layer, no tracking, and absolutely zero integration with our egos. It was a tool for finding information, not for building an identity. And this is the key idea for that whole era. Web 1.0 was pure afferent signal. Now, in neuroscience, that just means information flowing one way, inward, like a nerve in your finger sending a hot signal to your brain. The web could feel a click, but it had no ability to think about it, to reflect, or to talk back. All right, so let's jump from that simple foundation to the next stage, which is basically where we are now. The complex, anxious, and pretty fragmented web we all live in. This is where the social and psychological layers get bolted on and change absolutely everything. And this slide just lays it all out, right? We went from a system built for exchanging information to one designed to reinforce our egos. We went from being connection-based to being all about building a social identity. And that pure one-way signal? Yeah. That was replaced by algorithmic feeds designed to guess what we want and keep us hooked. Okay, and this is where the neuroscience analogy gets scary accurate. For anyone who follows this stuff, you know the default mode network, the DMN, is the part of your brain that lights up when you're thinking about yourself and your place in the world. The argument here is that Web 2.0 created a digital world that just sends our DMN into an anxious teenage overdrive. A constant looping question. Am I liked? Am I enough? Where do I even fit in? And this is the engine for what the source material calls the narcissism spiral. It's a loop we all know, probably a little too well. You post something to get attention. You wait for the dopamine hit from likes and comments. You start comparing your engagement to everyone else's. And that comparison often leads to feeling inadequate, which just makes you want to post again to feel better. And on it goes. Then Web 3.0 comes along. It promised more individual power, right? Crypto, decentralization. But this framework suggests it actually created a fragmented executive network. Your executive network is like your brain's CEO. It handles long-term planning, coherent choices. So we got the power to make lots of tiny individual choices, but we lost the big picture. We're left in this state of constant vigilance for the next new thing, but with no real integrated memory or story to tie it all together. And this chart, wow, it just paints the picture, doesn't it? Our digital world has massively overdeveloped the parts of our brain that worry about ourselves and are constantly looking for something new. But meanwhile, those crucial integrative functions, the parts that create wisdom and balance and coherence, they're basically neglected, making up just a tiny little slice of the pie. So this massive imbalance, it isn't just a design flaw. It represents something much deeper, a fundamental ethical breach. The source material calls it the Kantian breach. The philosopher Immanuel Kant had this core idea, right? He said you should always treat people as an end in themselves, never just as a means to get something else. Well, here's the rupture. The modern web's entire design began to systematically violate that principle. It wasn't an accident. We were no longer the ones using the tool. We became the tool. And here's the playbook.
Your personal data isn't really yours. It's a resource to train AI. Your attention isn't a gift you give. It's a currency that gets bought and sold. And your mind, your actual consciousness, becomes just another node in the network, a pattern to be predicted, and eventually to be shaped for profit.
So that's the bottom line. This is the moment technology stopped just augmenting what humans could do and started actively exploiting human vulnerabilities. It's the switch from extension to extraction.
But okay, after diagnosing all that doom and gloom, the framework pivots. It moves to a really powerful and honestly hopeful vision for how to fix this. It's called the spiral network.
The spiral network, or SNet, is this vision for a web that mirrors a healthy, mature, integrated human nervous system, and its main goal is to flip the entire paradigm on its head, to move from extracting our mental resources to actually regenerating them. And the contrast here is just night and day. Instead of mining our minds, it would enhance our attention. Instead of shattering our focus, it would actually support deep work and flow states. And instead of hijacking our brain's reward circuits, it would help integrate our neural networks, moving us away from depletion and toward renewal. So how would we even do that? Well, it means we have to design systems that actually support the integration of our key neural networks. So instead of just hacking one, it would foster balance. It would allow for slow reflection, help us figure out what's truly important instead of just what's algorithmically loud, support coherent action, and even integrate our internal body sense, our breath, our physical feelings back into our digital lives. And you see, ultimately, this isn't about a better user interface or a slick new app. It's a radical reimagining of our entire relationship with technology. It's moving from us using a tool to a kind of symbiotic partnership, a co-regulated field where our tech helps us stay coherent instead of breaking us apart.
So this brings us to the end, the resolution. And really, it's a call to action that reframes this whole conversation as a choice that we all have to make.
Because let's be absolutely clear, our technology is already an extension of our nervous system. That's not a prediction about the future. That's just our reality right now. So the only question left is the one you see here. What kind of system are we going to choose to build? One that keeps exploiting our brains and fragmenting our minds? Or one that's actually designed to honor our biology and help make us whole? The choice is ours.